Me being a Houston guy, I had to wrap my mind around it. So I went on HAR.com, Houston Association of Realtors.com, and I tried to find like the most expensive condominium I could find. I found one at 1711 Allen Parkway. It was a penthouse listed for $4.3 million, 3,600 square feet. That works out to about $1,200 a foot. And what you got going on in Dallas is just blowing that number out of the water. You're not, the 25 million outlier aside, even the ones at the terminal at Katy Trail, that one's about 2,000 a foot. So you're still almost double what we've got in Houston. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
Crazy.
right now. This is going to be one crazy development. I had to go online and check this thing out.
Welcome to Silberman Realty's Property Desk Podcast, Episode 2, where we talk about residential real estate in Texas. Today is June 18th, 2025, and I'm Phil Silberman, owner of the company, and your host. And I'm joined by my co-host today, Robert Vernon, who's real estate agent with Silberman Realty in our Dallas office. So, Robert, what's your feel on the market right now? Just no statistics. How's it feel in the last couple of weeks?
Oh, the past couple of weeks, starting to feel what you're seeing in the national sentiment, where things are really soft. Sellers are getting a little frustrated that they're not getting the house and pricing that they're expecting. So you're seeing a lot of agents get fired by their clients, going to other agents, thinking that they're going to have some miracle buyer show up for them. Starting to feel a little bit on the panic side on the buying, selling. Leasing slowed down a little bit. We've had a lot of bad weather though. So
because it's June. I mean, it's middle of June, so it's supposed to be a good month. So to hear you say that it doesn't feel like a good real estate market,
they're
is
usually
kind of
popping right
concerning.
now, and it doesn't feel great. I have several homes on the market in the lower end price point in the suburbs of Dallas, and usually those go pretty quickly. You don't have a hard time finding buyers for those. It's been a struggle. If your house is not perfect, it's not an anomaly. It's going to be a difficult sell right now.
Okay. Let's talk about what we're covering on the show today. So we've got a real estate news section where we're talking about some very high-end condo developments, going to talk about some fried chicken and some dinosaurs. And yes, those things all do go together. We're going to give people an update on the salt. Right. And we're going to give people an update on the salt tax deduction, what's going on in Congress. And then we also had a property tax cut passed in Texas. So we'll be letting people know about that. And in our management minutes segment, we're going to be talking about collecting first month's rent, security deposits, the best ways and mechanisms to do that. And then in our Let's Get Legal segment, we're going to talk about who owns Realtor.com. Spoiler alert, it's not the realtor. All right, let's go ahead and get it kicked off with our real estate news section. And we're talking about just some very high-end condo developments happening in Dallas. Robert, are you that familiar with sort of high-end condominiums in Uptown, Highland Park sort of area, or not really?
I don't keep up with it on the day-to-day. Being in Dallas over the last 15 years, you've seen all the bells and whistles of everything that's available come to Dallas. And it doesn't surprise me that there's more and more. Everybody wants the latest and greatest. And from what I understand, Uptown's getting a pretty sizable upgrade. I think probably the most expensive building in the whole Metroplex being built right now.
Yeah. Maybe all of Texas. Texas has never really been a condo market. You think about high-end condos, you think about Hong Kong, you think about New York, you think about high density areas with lots of land. That's just never been Texas. Houston, Robert, you're in the DFW area. Dallas has been way ahead of Houston as far as condo development. Dallas is always a place where the North meets the South. Houston, we have condos, we have nice condos. They just don't seem to do quite as well as our regular standalone house products. But anyway, Dallas is getting a lot, maybe some high-end condo developments right there in Uptown Highland Park. One of them here I've got is the terminal at Katy Trail, 16 luxury residences starting at $4.5 million. That's the starting price, and they've sold. They currently have that one's existing, and they currently have 2 of them available. So I did not know condos got that expensive in Texas. So was that
No,
news
they
to you
don't.
or you?
This is just one of those anomalies where you have so many billionaires that just want to one up each other and get the next best, highest thing in DFW. Because let's face it, that's where they're all staying now. They all have residents in the Metroplex. Like Shaq is even living here now in the Frisco suburbs.
Oh,
But anyways,
okay.
you can't go around DFW without just seeing some kind of celebrity or some rich, not
Okay.
just a normal
So,
billionaire, but the ones that you know of. But anyways,
well,
they're
I
always
mean,
trying to one up each other.
if Shaquille O'Neal is now living in the DFW area, then it must be a big market.
No pun intended
But
there.
so look, you've got some nice condos. We're talking about high end stuff. That's not the only one. There's another one, the terminal at Katy Trail. That one's already built, and first most of them are sold, and that one's ready. There's another one that's getting ready to come to market, or at least they're starting on construction. It's not quite ready yet. This is one in the same area, and it's gonna be condominiums, apartments, a hotel, retail, all in one. It's a 3-building mixed-use development.
What is this one
It's backed.
called?
I don't know if it has a name yet. It's backed by Michael Dell and the Hunt family, and reportedly, according to Bloomberg News, one of the penthouses was being marketed for $25 million. That's according to Bloomberg. That just sounds crazy.
25 million in the
$1 million.
DFW. Those are
For
prices in San Francisco, New York City. This is Texas.
it's crazy. Again, me being a Houston guy, I had to wrap my mind around it. So I went on HAR.com, Houston Association of Realtors.com, and I tried to find like the most expensive condominium I could find. I found one at 1711 Allen Parkway. It was a penthouse listed for $4.3 million, 3,600 square feet. That works out to about $1,200 a foot. And what you've got going on in Dallas is just blowing that number out of the water. You're not, the 25 million outlier aside, even the ones at the terminal at Katy Trail, that one's about 2,000 a foot. So you're still almost double what we've got in Houston. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
Crazy.
right now. This is going to be one crazy development. I had to go online and check this thing out.
Yeah. You know what the worst thing about buying a condo to me is? It's the maintenance fee. And
Oh my
even if you
God.
pay,
Makes it not
yeah,
worth it. They know they appreciate you don't buy it for the appreciation value. You're always going to be in the back end of the appreciation curve in the housing market buying a condominium.
yeah, I agree. If we talk about condos for regular people, there are a ton of really old condos in Houston, and I don't think they've appreciated in 20 years.
Oh
You could
no.
still buy, I think you could still buy, I don't know, I hate to call them junk condos, condos in the,
Class
yeah,
C condominiums down there, still paying $300 a month in HOA fees for stuff that hasn't been
yeah.
updated in 25 years. Yeah, it's
You
pretty
could,
rough.
you can buy them in Southwest Houston, I think, for 50, 60 grand. And then you can buy them in a nice area in Houston, like the Memorial area, for 100, 150. And
Are you
you
talking about
still,
1-bedroom condos?
some of them, no, like you can buy 2 bedroom,
You can
one
buy a
bath.
2-bedroom condo in Houston still for $50,000.
In the hood, you can get them for 50. Okay.
Okay,
And
got it.
those are like Southwest Houston along 59, kind of Beltway 8 area. I don't know what that area is called. Think about Sharpstown. But
Sharpstown, I know that area.
yeah, think about Memorial in a nice area. You can get 2-bedroom condos for like 100, 150, maybe 175, something like that. But you still checked. I felt like they had gotten so low, Robert, because there's downward price pressure on them. I put the numbers in my spreadsheet to see if I could buy some of them and lease them profitably. I still, because of the maintenance fee, I
Mhm.
still, with what the rents were bringing, I still could not get even any return. I
And
think I was getting
sometimes
a
I
two.
think that's done on purpose to keep
Yeah.
people like yourself from coming in and buying them all. They want them to
Yeah.
be able to be somebody who has to live in it, who
Yeah.
can if it's a really cheap property, but they're paying everything in HOA to the HOA
Mhm.
administration. and they're just racking
Yeah.
in. Like HOA, we could do a whole show on the HOAs in the state of Texas and how there needs to be reform there. They've gotten completely out of hand. Even in the single family community, sometimes you feel like you're being watched like you're in an apartment community. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there needs to be a lot of things that go on with that. I don't really like. So
It's bad, but I could not lease the condominiums, I could not buy them, lease them, make them profitable. To Robert's
it's tough.
point, it's the maintenance fees just absolutely kill you. But those were
They do.
condos. That's condos for regular people. These are condos for billionaires or very high net worth people. It's an incredible thing that they're doing in Dallas if they're selling that kind of product. The only thing I can figure out is from a security standpoint, you may need it. I used to have an acquaintance, quasi friend of mine, and I did a condo development turnaround in the Galleria area. And he was a criminal law attorney, and he wasn't, I'm not going to mention his name. I hope he doesn't listen to this, but he was not a very good criminal law attorney. And if you're not a very good criminal lawyer, you have maybe a lot of people getting out of jail that may want to do you harm at some point. So he lived in condominiums for a security standpoint. So I have to believe that if you're the kind of individual that needs security, a condominium may be a good product for you, even in Texas. But these are high-end condos. And part of the story here, besides just how expensive these things are, and we're finally seeing some demand for some of these products in places like Texas. Some of the story here is this guy, Todd Graves, who's the founder of Raising Cane's. You like Raising
Chicken
Cane's, Robert?
finger guy, yeah, the LSU chicken finger guy. I love me some Raising
So,
Cane's.
so I don't know much about Raising Cane's. I try to eat pretty healthy, but I do know that my kids love them, and I think I get a 40 count or something all the time. It feeds a crowd. It's a good product. I did not know Raising Cane's was that big chain, was that successful. Apparently, this guy, Todd Graves, is actually a billionaire. He owns 90% of Raising Cane's, and he's got a net worth of about $7 billion. So
People love their chicken fingers, man. It's a good business.
that's a lot of chicken fingers. And he's from LSU. Or no, I don't know that for certain. He's from Baton Rouge, where LSU's obviously in Baton Rouge. I don't know if
He
it has
was
anything to
a
do with
known
that.
product in LSU, like Lane Chicken Fingers is for Texas A&M and College Station. It's the same
Okay.
concept, but his just went nationwide, so much bigger, where Lane's is still more localized. They're starting to branch
Okay.
out a little bit more. If the Aggies in here, you know that you know exactly
Well,
what I'm talking about if you're a Lane's
I know
guy.
exactly what you're talking about. And I'm not an Aggie, but I know what you're talking about. To me, it's a chicken finger, but I'm up here in the Northeast for a little while, and people love Raising Cane's up here. They know about it. People ask about it. They must be putting some in the batter that's amazing. So people love it.
I
But this
agree.
guy, Todd Graves, net worth $7 billion. He has reportedly bought one of these units, a penthouse unit, 2-floor penthouse at this new development that's under construction. We don't know the purchase price. But this guy, and you sent me this on X, Robert, this guy, Barrett Lindbergh, whoever this guy is, he's claiming or reporting that Todd Graves bought it. And why does he need 2 floors? But it's because Todd Graves is going to put a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton between the floor plates, some kind of dinosaur thing. Now, I could not verify, and you can't, Robert, you can't trust everything you read on X.
I'm very aware. Community Notes is a great system.
Okay. I don't know if that's true, but here's what I did verify, that Todd Graves does in fact own the head of a Triceratops dinosaur. It's just the head. It weighs like a ton. He named the thing Jason. I don't know what he paid for it, but it's 65 million years old. And it's currently on loan to the Louisiana Art and Science Museum for 2 years.
This is about 2 years to get his condo built.
I don't know if he's going to put the head in the condo or he's got a new dinosaur
The
skeleton
story
coming.
is that he bought 2 floors because it's so big that he needed to have the size of the 2 floors, the height. So he bought.
Okay.
He's working with the developer, so he cannot have those floors put in. So that's why he's buying both the floors.
That's why he's something that not
Stupid
all of
money.
this is Not all of this is verified, people. I guess when you have that much money and you sell a lot of chicken fingers, you can do crazy things with your money, buy dinosaur fossils and bones and all that. But okay, that's the story. A lot of high-end condo development going on in Dallas. Dallas is apparently becoming more of a New York market, and guys selling chicken fingers are buying the penthouses and storing dinosaur skeletons there. That's what's going on. All right, that brings us to our next real estate news section here, our news piece. And we're talking about SALT tax. Now, Robert, I guess you don't know a lot about this, so I may have to carry the team on this one.
A CPA,
But
I leave this stuff up to them. Make sure they keep me in the good graces of the IRS.
okay. Donald Trump has a big, beautiful tax bill that he's trying to get through the House and the Senate. It passed the House, and as part of owning a property in the United States or paying state income tax. In Texas, for example, we have no state income tax, but we have a lot of property tax. And if you have a lot of property tax and you own an expensive enough house, your property tax could be 20, 30, 40, 50. Some people own, you're talking about $3, $4 million house. You may have $150,000 or in property tax if the house gets up there. If you live in the state of New York, you're going to probably have property tax and income tax, but you're definitely going to have state income tax. And what used to happen before 2016, when Trump did his first sort of tax gyration to get some tax cuts passed, you used to be able to get all of your state tax paid deducted from your federal income tax. Therefore, we call it the SALT tax deduction, the state and local tax deduction on your federal income tax. After 2016, that was capped at 10,000, but the standard deduction went up to about 30,000 for married people. So most people are not itemizing anyway. The vast majority of people don't itemize. It's only if you end up paying, you give a lot of money to donate for charitable donations, and then let's say you've got a lot of mortgage interest, then you might get to the deduction territory. But a lot of these states in the Northeast, they considered it an attack on them because they're high tax states and they want this thing raised. If you own a high-end property in Texas, you also probably want this thing raised. And the proposed bill from the House raised it to $40,000, which is great news unless you're Elon Musk and you're in Doge and you want it spending, because basically that big tax break, it's a cost that can lower federal revenues, tax revenue. So now it goes over to the Senate with a $40,000 deduction. And then the Senate looks at it, sends it back to the House essentially with the original $10,000 deduction. So that's the cap. So that's the bad news. So
So they
Robert,
brought
what do
it
you
back right back to where it was. They were basically it was a full rejection.
full reject? But there's a footnote from a committee saying that this is still being negotiated. So here's what I need to know from you, Robert. Do you think that has an effect on the demand? If someone's looking to buy a $3 million house, do you think they're thinking about that when they're buying the $3 million house? They're like, gosh, I'm less likely to maybe buy a more house because I no longer get this big tax deduction on my federal income tax, or does that not even enter their mind?
I think the savvy buyers would definitely take that into consideration. I think there's a huge segment of people that would not notice this until it became tax season for them. I think it doesn't matter which $100,000 price point buyer, $3 to $5 million price point buyer. They're all clueless when it comes to these types of things. And myself included, I rely on my CPA to let me know on those things. And not everybody's proactive enough to go talk to their CPA about a tax implication of buying a property. It's not in their minds. Most realtors aren't going to advise their clients that. And I would think the majority of buyers just don't do it. Now, there's definitely going to be a segment of buyers who are smarter, but you said the vast majority, and I would say the vast majority probably would not notice this until tax time.
I think you're right. When I talk to people about this, I'm very passionate about this, but when I talk to people about this, they're like, I don't quite get it. But the people in Congress and the constituents that pay a lot of tax, I think they're getting it. It's something I think about if I'm buying real estate for certain. But we'll see where that comes out. We'll keep everyone posted whether that's going to get negotiated and go up to the 40 or it's going to stay capped
It
at.
does
So
seem like the Doge cuts really are just getting eaten up with this bill and then some. So
well,
it
that
was
is that.
all for nothing. It was great spectacle. Got Elon on his ticket and got Trump in the White House. So I guess it's
Well,
to be seen what happens. But
that was the whole brouhaha with Trump and Musk. Musk basically said this big beautiful bill is doing a lot of counteractions against what he did at Doge. Now I think I saw it for what it was. It doesn't matter how much Musk was able to cut at Doge. So much of our spending is military and entitlements, Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that, that it's billions of dollars from the EPA or whatever is almost like a drop in the bucket compared to what we're spending on entitlement programs. So that's challenging. But
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
all right, we got to talk a little bit about this other tax related issue. This one is going to actually affect more regular people that are not buying two, three, $4 million houses. This is the Texas, this is local. And in Texas, we have a lot of property tax. It's too much tax. I think it's unsustainable. But in this legislative session, the Texas House and Senate did vote to increase the homestead exemption on school district property taxes. So that's going up from 100K to $140,000 deduction on your school taxes. That translates to, Robert, about $400 a year.
Hey, it's
You
something
know,
when you're paying upwards $6,000 to $8,000 on a standard home in today's
yeah.
market. And that's with the homestead exemption sometimes. It's pretty high. It's
Yeah.
up there, one of the most in the country when it comes to
Oh,
percentage points.
it's crazy high. Did you know that there were some legislatures, mostly conservative legislatures, that want gambling in Texas? They were floating the idea, if you just bring casinos to Texas, then we can get rid of all property taxes.
Well,
That was
yeah,
that
all
was
of
it.
us here in Dallas know this very well because the Eldeston family came in and bought the Dallas Mavericks and then didn't get their gambling ways with all their lobbying. So they went ahead and got Luca out of Dallas as a revenge. That's just something we have a sore subject with over here
It-
in Dallas, but that's our conspiracy theory on that.
Right.
But yes, we do know about this
That's
gambling situation very well. They want to get it passed. I don't see why it shouldn't be. You've got Oklahoma and Louisiana lobbyists like crazy that are trying to keep it from happening because that's their entire income.
all right. Would you be for it? Would you be for legalizing gambling in Texas
At
and
this
everyone had to
point, it's
pay?
like the thing where it's everywhere. Like, why are we
Yeah.
Texas loves to be behind on everything on purpose. And so it's might as well do it, tax it, get some revenue, give us some property tax relief if even we would get it. But who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. Politicians have never met a tax that they did not like. So
Absolutely.
this whole promise of, oh, if we tax casinos and tax gambling or whatever, and then we'll get rid of your property tax, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, man, the
Um,
people from the
it-
Boston Tea Party would be rolling over in their graves knowing what we accept today. It's ridiculous.
oh, it is crazy. And $400 better than nothing on your
It's
homestead
something.
exemption.
But
Yeah, I
real
think
quick on the
I,
homestead exemption, I've got a little tidbit for you out there. Prior years, you used to be able to just file your homestead and then you're good. Now with this new bill, they're making it to where you have to refile every 5 years to
oh
show
my
that you're
goodness,
still in the property.
that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, so it
it
doesn't
used to
just
be
follow
you.
along with the life of the property. Yeah, I used to follow
And
the
how
life of the
many
property.
and how many people are going to forget about that? And see, that's going to
So
create
many.
a boon. That's going to create a boon for my real estate law. I'm also a lawyer, as Robert knows, but for the listeners who don't, I also have a law firm. How many calls am I going to get from people that lost their homestead exemption, and then we're going to have to go protest it for them and get it changed back?
Why do you think that this
Just
bill got passed? Why do you think they did? Oh, they put this in there
you,
because so many people are going to forget and they're going to fall off, or there's so many people who have rental properties that they used to live in it. They filed a homestead and they just use it as a rental and they've never taken the homestead off. Now there's a checks and balances system on those folks. They're going to lose their homestead. They're going to get the revenue back from
well,
all
what
these
they
that
used to
fall
do
off.
is what they would used to do is send you a card or something, and if it came back, then they would take away your homestead exemption and all that. But all right, we got to move
I never
on.
had it.
So
Yeah.
this We got to move on. We got to do our management minute segment now. Talk about property management, Robert. Lest you forget, we are primarily a property management company. That is Silberman Realty. So we got to talk a little bit about property management. And this is something that you spearheaded at the company. We're talking about what's the best way to collect first month's rent and security deposit. Now, fought Robert on this for many years. And the issue is when people are paying first month's rent and security deposit, you need to get good collected funds for the owners so that if the tenant moves in, you don't want to take a personal check because that could bounce. And you don't want to, so we'd always take certified funds for security deposit and first month's rent, and we'd mail these checks around. And I guess sometimes the checks would get lost. So Robert he couldn't handle it anymore. Robert, you tell us about the solution that you implemented.
When you have money being exchanged from a tenant, going to a money order, going into an envelope, to the office, to different hands, having to go into an account, there's just so many variables there that can happen, and they would happen. And then you would have lost funds. It'd be kind of a pain to spend a lot of time trying to find them. But we live in 2025 and everything is done online. We now have secure ways of sending money back and forth that is not reversible like that used to be. Sending money by Zelle is actually the best way, in my opinion, because you can't reverse it. The sender gets at least 2 check marks or checkpoints to make sure that they're sending it to the right person, because it tells them your money is not reversible. So to me, that is just as good as certified funds, and it's instantaneous, and it can't be lost somewhere in the mail system.
So that's what we did. We set up, now Zelle is owned by all of the big, technically it's owned by Early Warning Services LLC. It's a fintech company, financial technology company, but that's co-owned by a consortium of 7 major U.S. banks: Bank of America, Capital One, Chase, PNC, Truist, if I'm saying that right, U.S. Bank, and Wells Fargo. Truist. So we had to get a Bank of America account to make this whole thing work. And I guess it's working, Robert. There people are zelling us security deposits, and it's technically not reversible.
I'll tell you what, I mean, it's very safe. It's very safe. It's so safe that we have a new account. It's caused me a little bit of issues with it being a new account. It's been flagging it for fraud and stuff for a few times, but we're working through it. I think you need to be 60 days of the account with a certain amount of transactions, and that kind of stuff falls off. So we're getting through those early things that you have to go through, but so far it's working great. People love having the option to either wire money to us, go to the bank, put it in, or Zelle it to us.
Are people still limited to $500? Are they having to do, if it's a $2,000 deposit, are they having to do $500?
It comes down to their individual account and how much they've used Zelle in the past. So if it's something that they've used a lot, they don't have any limitations. If it's somebody who hasn't used Zelle very much, they will have a $500 limit, some $1,000, some a $2,000. So I can't control their side of things. And that's why we give them the option to wire the funds, or if they want, they can go walk into a Bank of America and just put it in. We don't have to have the money actually lost, or they don't have to go produce a cashier's check and have it written out to the wrong person. Plus, this allows us to grab the money a whole lot faster, which is actually in accordance to the lease agreement. You would want to pay it as soon as possible. That way we can have the funds accounted for as soon as possible.
So you like it? It's where you think this is better than sending the checks around?
Yes, because then I have to chase checks. Oh, did that come through? I gotta check tracking. Did they send it correctly? Oh, they forgot to send tracking. Oh, it's not showing up. And let's be real, the USPS system is not the greatest system, especially today. So having to rely on that over the internet, it was just time to make the switch.
There's 4 or 5 different options for collecting security deposits and first month's rent for owners. The old way we used to do it is certified funds. It's still a good way if you can get the things overnight.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. They're right. Yeah, I mean, it's good collectible funds. And now certified checks can be fraudulent, but you can always call a bank if you're suspicious and verify it. And then there's a wire transfer. Now, most consumers, I think, would struggle with initiating a wire, and there's a fee associated with the wire. But it's gotten easy. Robert, is that right? On most people, do people ever want to wire?
Most banks is pretty easy. Yeah, most banks is pretty easy. Yeah.
Okay. So they could now wire, once a wire is sent, And for title company purposes, Robert, we're all wires. That's what title companies want, the wires. It's once it's sent, it's gone forever. It's good, collected funds immediately. And then you've got this Zelle, which is a hybrid. Just the lawyer in me wants to clarify that it is generally irreversible, but there's some chatter out there about some things can be reversed, but it's generally irreversible. And then you have ACH, which stands for Automatic Clearinghouse. That's a different thing. They also have a banking app that can do an ACH transfer. Those are like checks, and those can bounce and be reversible. Now, here's the thing. If you're a landlord out there, or we're your property management company, or you've got another property management company, where you're always balancing risk with convenience. Now, the bad news for landlords is if you take something like an ACH or something gets reversed, you don't want to be in the situation where a tenant is in the property without having paid rent and then continues to not pay rent. And then you have to evict the tenant and you never got the security deposit and you never got the first month's rent because those funds were not good and collected. That's what we want to try to avoid. But Robert, I'm hearing that it seems to be working okay for us.
So far, so good. We're going on about a month and a half on it so far, and I wouldn't go back to the other way.
All right. Sounds good. All right. That brings us to our next segment in the show. We're talking about our legal section. Let's get legal. And this is just an interesting little tidbit. Robert, did you know who owned Realtor.com? I know you've got the outline, but before the outline, looking at the outline, did you just assume it was the Realtors?
So I definitely didn't assume us, but I'm not sure who it was. To be honest with you, I know they gave it to me all the time, trying to sell me leads. So I know they weren't from me.
I thought obviously the National Association of Realtors kind of owned Realtor.com. Not so. The Realtor.com is actually owned by the Move Inc., which is a News Corp subsidiary. And what happens, Robert, is the NAR, National Association of Realtors, actually licenses the brand, the Realtor brand. When you first became an agent or took your Realtor classes, Robert, do you remember the Realtors were always flipping out about putting like the R for registered trademark and capitalizing Realtor? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, big time. Everybody would make a big stink about it.
It's the dumbest thing in the world because from a legal perspective, it's you forget the R, it's still a Realtor. But what they don't want Realtor to do, and it may have already happened, is they don't want the word Realtor to become interchangeable with the word real estate agent, because then you've lost brand protection. I think they call it genericide. Like, Robert? Okay, if I'm going to blow my nose with something, what do I blow my nose with? What do I use to blow my nose? Oh, Robert, you messed it up. Most people would say Kleenex, and Kleenex is actually a brand. They would not say tissue. And there's some debate. Once Kleenex becomes so with something, it means the thing. It means once Kleenex
like Uber
means
and
tissue,
taxi, like an Uber and taxi.
Yeah, you could lose your brand. So that's why realtors freaked out about it for years.
Okay,
and,
that makes sense.
That's why they always put the little registered trademark. So what is happening in this situation is the National Association of Realtors is licensing that brand to News Corp. And
Don't doubt
News
it.
Corp News Corp is operating the site. And Realtor, second most visited website, real estate website in the United States. You know what number one is, Rob?
I would have to guess probably Zillow.
It is. Do you know what number 3 is?
Maybe Trulia?
You're pretty good. Trulia is actually number 4. Redfin is number 3. I won't bore you with the other ones, but Morgan Stanley valued in 2016, it valued Realtor.com at $2.5 billion. That's billion with a B. Probably worth more since then. For those of you who don't know, News Corp it's the same group that publishes the Wall Street Journal and the Times. So it's a big operation. They provide services. Mostly what they do is they sell leads. Robert, you've been solicited. They ask you to buy leads from them or whatever. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. My entire career, I've been getting solicited from them to buy leads off my own name and off my own listings. I never really found that needed. Works for some folks,
buy the leads. Buy the leads from your own listing. So I don't know. I don't know if it works or not. We've never had a lot of success. I think we've experimented with buying some leads sometimes. We've never had a lot of success with buying leads. They are advertising a new product, which I don't know how this works, but they claim that you only pay when it closes. And
I haven't
again,
been pitched that yet.
as a lawyer, alarm bells are going off because if Realtor.com is only paid when it closes, that almost reads to me like a referral fee and a commission. So that it seems to me they'd have
Yeah,
to
that
have a real estate
does.
license. See, they need to hire me as general counsel. That's what needs to happen.
I'd be
So
shocked if they didn't have somebody in their ear already before they release that out.
somebody telling them they may not. My firm is available, people. I don't know if I'm allowed to. Look, for the record, that's not an official advertisement for the law firm. That's a joke. We have strict rules on advertising as lawyers, so it's a joke. All right, there you go. That's what they sell leads, they sell services to builders and brokers and that kind of thing. Robert, that brings our show to a close. I've been your
All
host,
right.
Phil Silberman. Robert Vernon has been my co-host. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. Nothing in this show is to be considered legal advice or investment advice, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a question about real estate or something you'd like us to cover, email us at info@silbermanrealty.com. That's info@silbermanrealty.com. Tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. Everybody have a great rest of your week.
Have a good one.